Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner? Here on Women's Life Stories, we retell those moments honest every day, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. By the time I peel off my Harbor View badge and step into the night, the harbor is wearing a thin shawl of fog. The ER doors sigh closed behind me, and the smell of antiseptic follows me into the damp air like a ghost that doesn't know how to quit. I've been on my feet for 14 hours. My hands still remember a cracked rib, a child's fever, the quiet click of a pulse ox creeping back to safe. All I want is to sit in my own kitchen, pour hot water over a tea bag, and listen to the heater knock like an old friend. Harbor's Edge is the kind of Massachusetts town that looks like a postcard until you live inside its edges long enough to see the seams. Shingled roofs, white church steeple, lobster rolls that cost too much in July. Tonight, the street lamps make pale coins on Merritt Bridge, and the tide hisses under the planks as if the whole bay is whispering. Our cape sits 3 blocks off the water, a salt box with cedar shingles that have weathered to the color of driftwood. Tom likes to keep the porch light on even when we're out. He says it sells warmth, and he's not wrong. It makes the hydrangeas glow like they're lit from within. I climb the steps, dig for my keys, and realize I don't need them. The door is not locked. The knob turns as easily as a thought, and the latch rests against the strike plate as if someone nudged it closed with the careless back of a hand. I stop 1 foot inside, 1 foot out, feeling for something draft sound the electric prickle of being watched. The wind chime, a tangle of old flatware I once bent into art, knocks gently against the clapboard. In the hallway, a coat sleeve hangs askew from the hook like a sentence that forgot to end. Tom. I keep my voice small and ordinary, the way you call a name through a grocery aisle. No answer. The television is dark. The thermostat hums. Our travel mugs line the counter like soldiers. One mug has a smear of lipstick that is not mine, a bright cheap red that has nothing to do with the kind of color you keep after 57. I put my bag down and then pick it back up. Habit, fear, who knows? The living room smells faintly of bourbon and eucalyptus. Tom's jacket lies open on the sofa arm. A cufflink, tiny and silver, winks from the rug. The floor lamp burns without a shade because I promised myself I'd rewire it last weekend and didn't. A heel mark mars the oak coffee table. It's fresh. I hear it, then a breath caught wrong. A laugh that isn't a laugh, the sound you make when you're trying to swallow a noise before it becomes itself. Something inside my chest, some tendon of trust, draws tight, then gives way with a quiet traitor snap. The rest is a sequence in my brain will replay in pieces, never in order. A scarf draped over the banister like a flag surrendering in low wind. A button on the hearth. A whisper that has my husband's name inside it. A reflection of 2 bodies in the black glass of the turned-off TV, so faint I could pretend the picture was broken if I wanted to. I don't speak. My training runs the bored airway breathing circulation. Count the exits, find your feet. I set my bag down gently this time and walk backward to the door. The wind chime says something I don't have time to translate. I step onto the porch, close the door behind me until the latch catches, and stand for 1 long second on the top stair, feeling every molecule of night press close. A younger version of me would have gone to war in that room. This one goes to the car. The Subaru starts on the first try, a loyal dog clearing his throat. I pull away from the curb past the lilac bush Tom planted the year he signed the first deal with Whitman Urban Partners, past the mailbox with the hand-painted blue stripe Noah put there when he was 13. My hands keep to 10 and 2 because they know what they're doing. The rest of me is a passenger. Fog gathers low on the road to Crescent Pier, thick as breath against glass. The harbor in night mode is a machine of small noises, halyards, clinking gulls, bickering far off, a buoy bell tolling from the channel. I park where I always do when I need to remember the shape of my own thoughts and kill the engine. The silence that rushes in is not silent at all. It is wind and water and the metal fatigue of the world. On the passenger seat sits an old mason jar with pennies, the one Tom and I started feeding when we had more month than money. We used to say we'd spend it on a road trip west, when the jar filled a joke that was not a joke. I unscrew the lid and let a penny roll into my palm. It is warm from the car, dull as a plucked moon. I put it back. The heater clicks as it cools. Across the water, the beacon at Black Gull Light blinks on, off, in a language that never changes its mind. I take out my phone and open the voice memos, not because I have anything to say, but because making a record has saved me more than once. Time date. My name as if a jury needed proof. I breathe in slow the way I tell my patients to do when the mask goes over their faces. My name is Dr. Grace Whitman. It's a glance at the dash clock, 21:42, Harbor's Edge, the pier. I came home from a 14-hour shift. The door was unlocked. I hear the small crack in my own voice and steady it. I am safe. The word lands in the cabin like a promise I've never had to make to myself out loud. I hit stop. The memo sits there, a thin blue band, 1 minute and change. I title it with the date and put the phone screen down on my thigh. I don't cry. That surprises me, though it shouldn't. Shock is a blunt instrument. It muffles, protects, buys time. My mother, who believed in casseroles and keeping the porch swept, would say, "You don't have to feel everything tonight, Gracie." She's been gone 10 years and still shows up when the seams split. The bass smooths, then ruffles in the wind like an animal thinking. I think about the smell in the living room, eucalyptus and bourbon. I think about the lipstick and how easily the door gave. A laugh that wasn't a laugh. Not evidence in a courtroom, not yet, but a shape emerging the way a fracture appears in an X-ray once your eyes learn what to look for. A truck pulls in 3 spaces over and idles. A couple of teenagers climb onto the hood and wrap a blanket around their shoulders, faces lit by a phone they share. One of them laughs, and it's the uncomplicated kind. I don't resent them for it. I remember how it feels to believe the world will arrange itself around your best parts. Somewhere past the jetty, a foghorn answers the bell. The lights on Merritt Bridge are softer, now edges blurred. I glance at the homely face of the penny jar and screw the lid tight until it squeaks. The ridiculous thought occurs to me that if I can seal that lid, I can keep every other thing from spilling. Okay, I say to no one, and the sound of my voice in the small car is both strange and familiar. I adjust the rearview mirror and see not a victim, not a warrior, just a woman with salt in her hair and an imprint on her nose from a mask worn too long. The mirror shakes a little because my hands do. I keep breathing until they remember me. On the floorboard, a takeout fork from Lucky's Diner flashes in the ambient light. It still has a paper sleeve. I think of coffee poured by a woman who calls everyone hun of pie that tastes like October even in March, of the register bell that dings when the door swings open and lets in the cold. I am not hungry. Still, I put the car in gear. As I pull away from the pier, the beacon blinks again, steady as a metronome. The bridge rises in front of me and the planks chatter under the tires. On the far side, the town gathers itself into familiar shapes. Church, courthouse, the dark line of maples, and my house, somewhere behind them still lit, still standing there like a picture someone forgot to take down. I drive past our block without turning my head, my eyes on the next green light, and then the next. The fog is thicker up from the water, and it swirls in the beams in soft theatrical curls. At the red, I rest my forehead on the steering wheel for 2 breaths, then lift it when the light changes. In the back seat, an umbrella knocks against the door with each curve. The sound is small, measurable, something I can count. I don't choose a destination. I choose motion. The heater clears the glass. The radio is off, and the silence is a room big enough to walk around in. The night, which has not promised me anything, gives me this 1 clean mile and then another. I take it. By dawn, the fog has thinned to lace. I shower at the hospital locker room with a towel that smells like bleach and thyme and pull on fresh scrubs. The fluorescent lights flatten everybody's face into the same shade of tired. Mine isn't special. I knot my hairpin my badge and step into the bright hum where coffee and adrenaline hold hands. Harborview wakes hard. A fisherman with a hook through the pad of his thumb. A grandmother who waited all night to tell someone about a pressure in her chest that feels like laundry sitting on me. A college kid pale as paper swearing it was only 2 shots. I stand where I always stand between beeping monitors and people who need someone calm and let muscle memory do its quiet righteous work. Chart, suture, reassure, move. Marisol clocks me at triage without breaking stride. She has half a bagel in her hand and a pen behind her ear and the kind of eyes that see beneath scripts. "You look like you slept in a car," she says gently. "Because friendship is a blanket thrown across your shoulders, not a spotlight." "I slept," I say. "In a car, in motion." She hands me the rest of the bagel and a coffee she didn't admit was for me. It is black and hot, and the lid clicks twice when I set it down. "You don't owe him your peace," she says soft enough that it doesn't land like advice. I know. I take a sip. The coffee is too strong. I keep drinking. By 10, the ER has slowed to a manageable thrum. I'm scrubbing a smear of iodine from my wrist when the charge nurse leans in and jerks her chin towards Conference B. "Heads up," she whispers. "Your husband's doing a victory lap." Through the glass wall, the hospital board sits around a long table, flipping through packets emblemed with a lighthouse and the words, "Beacon Ball." Tom stands at the head of the table, blue suit. Open smile palms up like a preacher who learned sales. He looks good the way men do when life has always been edited for them. Beside him, a vase of sunflowers taller than my forearm. The door swings open and he coasts into the hallway with the arrangement. For the hardest working team in Massachusetts, he says loud enough to be heard by people who will repeat it later. A ripple of admiration moves through the desk, bright as a penny in a fountain. Someone whistles. Someone else says, "I told you he's a keeper." He looks at me like a man reaching for a photograph he recognizes. "Grace," he says. And for a second, his voice goes small the way people sound when they've just remembered their own names. "You're a marvel." He leans in for the cheek kiss that belongs to married theater. I step back half an inch, enough for the air to register it, not enough for anyone to write it down. I take the flowers like a prop I've just been handed on stage and turn them toward the nurse's station. "Put them by the donor wall," I say to Marisol. "They'll keep longer out of the sun." Tom's smile flickers one frame misprinted, then gone. "We'll talk later," he says soft enough for only me and adds with a boardroom brightness, "Big things coming." Big? He pivots back into the conference room to a round of polite knuckle taps on polished wood. The glass door clicks gentle as a lie. At noon, I tell the desk I'm taking my half hour and walk 2 blocks to Lucky's Diner, where vinyl booths squeak when you sit and the pie cooler gleams like a promise. The bell over the door dings. The waitress calls me Han without looking and slides a mug onto the counter with the grace of a card dealer. The coffee here is kinder. Noah is already at a back booth. Shoulders hunched, denim jacket folded in a square beside him. Hands around his own mug like he's warming them over a campfire. He stands when I reach him. For a heartbeat, I see the boy who used to cue his toy cars along the windowsill and announce traffic conditions to the cat. Then I see the man who teaches other people's kids to read the past without drowning in it. "Hey, Mom," he says, and his mouth pulls to one side, reaching for a shape that isn't a smile. He sits. I sit. We start with weather because weather is the door into rooms that hurt. The waitress brings tuna melts and a slice of apple pie she didn't write down but knew to bring. When Noah finally reaches for the canvas messenger bag at his feet, he does it like someone setting down a burden they shouldn't have to carry. He slides a manila folder across the table. Inside printouts I recognize by typeface alone. Hotel confirmation emails, itemized bills. Simple names that make ugly sense. Seaside Inn, Harbor Crest Suites, each stamped with a rewards number the same last 4 digits I've seen on Tom's keychain tag for years. Check-ins during Noah's night classes. Lunch hours that stretched. Noah's voice stays steady, but I hear the revel. I thought I was losing it, Mom. I smelled his cologne on Lila's scarf once and told myself clones repeat. I asked about the hotel charge and she said it was a conference breakfast. I asked again and she cried and told me I was jealous like my father. He opens his phone and taps to a folder of screenshots. I found these 3 weeks ago, he says. I wasn't snooping. I borrowed her laptop to print midterms and the messages popped on the screen because she never logs out. I screenshotted what I could. I emailed myself the confirmation numbers too in case she deletes them. The images stack snippets of logistics with the tenderness ironed out. Can you get away at lunch? I'll book under initials. Same room as last time. There are hearts, yes, and a few photos that I refuse to recognize as the outlines of people I know. I focus on metadata because there are rules in numbers, timestamps, IP addresses, a map pin that lands 6 miles from our house and too close to Tom's office to be an accident. Noah scrolls to a different app and shows me the interface of our doorbell camera. Look at the motion alerts, he says. Weeknights 11:18, 11:26. She said she was at book club, Mom. In 3 of the clips, a woman with Lila's hair and coat slips past our front porch camera with her face turned from the lens. Tom opens from the inside and reaches to flip the porch light off, as if darkness could make a story true. Noah's finger holds the frame steady on Tom's arm. That's his watch, he says. It's the one you gave him the year I graduated. We eat 2 bites of pie each and call it lunch because that is as much sweetness as the day can stand. I fold the printouts into thirds and tuck them back into the folder. Noah lifts his mug and sets it down without drinking. He never was good at letting liquid cool. I started therapy when you told me I was paranoid, he says, not as confession, but as a footnote with muscle. Turns out my gut works. I wish it didn't. I reach across the laminate and set my hand on his knuckles. His skin is warm. Your gut works, I say. It always has. He nods once like he's seen it written somewhere with authority. The waitress swings by and tops off our cups. Everything all right, you two? She asks, in a tone that expects yes, because kindness has a script too. We're fine, I say, and the word doesn't wobble. Fine can hold multitudes if you stack it carefully. After Noah leaves for his 7th period prep, I sit for another minute and listen to the diner breathe the rattle of ice in a glass, the hiss of a flat top, a man 2 booths over telling someone on the phone that the cod are running late. I pay in cash, fold a tip beneath the salt shaker, and walk back to the hospital with the folder against my ribs, a metronome ticking time I can feel. Between patients, I call a number Marisol pressed into my palm weeks ago for a different kind of family trouble. Ava Chen, a voice answers brisk and alive like a tempo a drummer sets. This is Dr. Grace Whitman, I say. I have half an hour at 3. I can be wherever you are. Her office is a 2nd floor space above a bakery that makes the whole stairwell smell like cinnamon. Sunlight catches dust in the air like the ghosts of tiny tickets. Ava is small and composed and wears a navy dress that looks like it has pockets that mean it. She doesn't offer sympathy. She offers a chair and a yellow legal pad. I don't know what I want, I say, which is true and not useful. You don't have to know that today, she says, uncapping a pen. Tell me what you have. I give her the folder, my phone, the names of hotels and the dates on the charges. I tell her about the doorbell clips, the smell of bourbon and eucalyptus, the unlocked door. I don't tell her about the penny jar. She will understand without it, and I need to keep one thing mine. She skims fast, then slower, then taps the pen against the margin. Massachusetts recognizes post-nuptial agreements, she says in a tone that belongs to information, not hope. They have to be fair when signed and fair when enforced. No duress. Independent review is best. Consideration matters. I can keep a straight face in any room on earth, I say. If I ask him to sign something, he'll call it a romantic gesture. Keep your face, she says. Don't use the word romantic. Use the word clarity. She flips a sheet, writes clarity in block letters, and underlines it. Also, if there's a clause about cutting off contact with a third party, it won't bind the third party criminally, but it binds him. Paper wins. The phrase lands the way good advice does, obvious only after you hear it. She looks at my hands, at the half-moon crescents my nails have pressed into my skin. You're steady, she says, a simple fact. I've seen people in pieces, you're not that. Not today, I say. She prints a short list on letterhead, then stops herself and rips it up. No list, she corrects, amused at her own reflex. Let's start with the obvious. If he's donating to your hospital, if there's a gala, if he's public-facing, any decisions you make about where to stand can be, how do I say this, efficient. I nod. She slides my phone back to me and caps her pen. Send me copies, she says. I'll read every word. Back at Harborview, the afternoon leans long. A toddler with a cracked eyebrow stops crying when I let him peel a sticker from the sheet himself. The grandmother with laundry on her chest decides she can breathe easier and means it. Between cases, I sit at a computer in the staff lounge and open the email account Tom and I share for foundation correspondence because donors prefer one address that looks like a family. There is a fresh thread near the top titled FW Dovetail Capital Denver Pivot Deck. It is from Tom to me with 3 words. Skim for tonight. Beneath it, the original sender has written the kind of message men who believe themselves essential, trade like currency, confident, quick, laced with numbers that shine like fish. The attachment chugs open charts, renderings of glass and water, bullet points bright with promise. 2/3 down a slide labeled Lifestyle shows a lake and a dock, and a woman with hair the color of honey standing at the end of it, looking into a distance that isn't there. I save the email to a folder with an innocent name and forward a copy to my private address with a subject line that will make sense to only me. I close the browser. The heater ticks in the ceiling. Somewhere a code is called in the resolved without me. The flowers Tom brought stand in their borrowed vase by the donor wall, sun-bright and unbothered by any of this. I wash my hands at the sink until the water runs cold and the iodine stain is gone. By late afternoon, the iodine is gone from my skin and the flowers Tom delivered have begun to open like they know what room they're in. My phone lights with his name as I'm charting a discharge. Dinner at Riley's, 7 Hosier talk. He has always preferred conversations where the napkins are thick. Riley's Steakhouse hums with Friday hockey game on silent. Over the bar, waiters moving fast enough to look choreographed, a brass rail that remembers 100 hands. The hostess stand has a bowl of matchbooks and a little placard that reads Notary on Call with a phone number which is a Harbor's Edge kind of convenience I've never noticed before. I arrive 2 minutes early and choose a 2-top against the wall where I can see the door. Tom comes in carrying a wind that smells like cedar and money. Blue suit, no tie, the tan you get from golf more than sun. He kisses the air beside my cheek and takes his seat like a man who believes chairs are waiting for him. You look great, he says, and flags the server with 2 fingers. Old-fashioned for me, whatever she's having. Club soda, I say, with lime. He gives a half laugh that fits in his throat. Careful, he says. They'll revoke your Harborview badge. Menus open. We talk in the language of couples who have rehearsed this. You look tired, the hospital. Okay, Noah, weather. He lifts the napkin and lays it across his lap as if the gesture could set the table for anything. When the drinks arrive, I reach into my bag and take out a folio that Ava sent to my house by courier, heavy cream paper tabs labeled in clean navy type. I lay it on the table as if it's dessert we ordered on purpose. Clarity, I say. Tom studies my face like he's trying to locate the joke. He opens the folio and finds the words that have always made him sit up straighter. Agreement terms, property sign. Ava's cover letter explains what it needs to explain in 1 page. Flat, this is a post-nuptial agreement between 2 competent adults. It is fair as of today and fair if enforced. It's been reviewed by counsel. It is not a surprise. I don't understand, Tom says, which is true in the small way and false in the large, and then carefully, "What are we doing here, Grace? We're making the parts of us that work legible," I say. "It protects both of us. It gives me the house and my retirement accounts. It gives you the car you love and your separate property. And there's a clause about not contacting third parties that have caused harm in the marriage. It's cleaner that way." He turns a tab. He glances at the hostess stand at the notary on call card, at the bar where a man he knows is pretending not to look. When Tom is cornered, he performs. He leans back, lets his shoulders drop, and arranges his mouth into something like warmth. "If this makes you feel safer," he says, "then of course. Whatever it takes to..." He stops himself short of the word heal. He knows how it sounds out loud. The hostess appears with our salads and a small woman in a wool coat leather portfolio in hand. "Evening," she says business-like. "Kara Mobile Notary, you needed me." Tom blinks at the swiftness of the world. I hand Kara my license and the folio. 2 signatures, 3 initials, she says, flipping to the right flags, with the bored grace of someone who sees a lot and takes none of it home. Tom's pen hovers. He looks up once more, a child scanning a room for a teacher who might tell him the right answer. There isn't one. He signs where the tabs tell him to sign. Kara stamps. The sound is small and absolute. She collects our IDs, notes the time, tucks the copies into a manila envelope, and is gone with a polite nod that doesn't snag on anything. "Clarity," I say again and tip my club soda. Tom lifts his glass like a man at a ribbon cutting. To clarity. The ice clinks. The bourbon smells like the living room did. We eat steak we don't taste. He talks about a deck titled Denver Pivot and a lakeside property that he swears looks like it was drawn for us. He says the word "we" as if it were a rug he could unroll under our feet. He doesn't ask what I saw, what I heard. He doesn't say Lila's name. When the check arrives, he covers it with a hand that has worn my ring for 3 decades. "I'll take this part," he says, and smiles like a man who believes that generosity is a product you can brand. Outside, the night is brittle with cold. He walks me to my car and reaches as if to touch my arm. I unlock the door and step back, just enough that there is only the air where his hand might have been. "I'll swing by the house in the morning," he says, softening his voice to the pitch he used when Noah was small. "Coffee on the porch, like old times." "Text me first," I say, "and get in." He stands there a second longer than he needs to and then walks away, shoulders squared against the wind like a man leaving a stage. Saturday, the library courtyard is bright as glass. A maple throws patient shade across the brick, and the winter bare hydrangeas hold the hard shapes of next season the way only plants know how. I sit on a bench with a thin folder in my lap and watch the big clock above the entrance mark time in dignified seconds. Lila arrives 5 minutes early in a camel coat that looks borrowed from a woman 10 years older than she is. "Grace," she says, stopping short of the bench hands, knotted in front of her like she's showing them to a judge. "Thank you for meeting me." Her hair's pulled tight enough to shine. There's a dryness at the corner of her mouth that I know from patients who have forgotten to drink water. She waits for me to speak first. I slide the folder onto the bench between us. Inside, 3 printed screenshots, a credit card statement page with 2 lines highlighted, a still frame from a doorbell clip where Tom's watch is the brightest thing in the picture. "You already know what's in there," I say. My voice doesn't do anything fancy. This is just me knowing it too. She chews the inside of her cheek like she's trying to erase what's written there. "I never meant to." She stops. The sentence falls apart at the place where the subject meets the verb. "He loves me," she says instead, almost as if she's testing the taste of each word alone. "He said when he moves, he's choosing me." "Don't contact him again," I say. "Don't call, don't text, don't send messages through people." There's a clause with his signature on it that says exactly that. Her chin lifts a fraction as if the muscle under it refuses to go to its knees. "You can't control who he loves." "I can't," I say. but I can control what happens in my house and what happens to my name. I fold the folder closed and set it on my own thigh. You married my son. For a second, her face is a study in calculation, then it crumples at the edges like paper that got wet and dried wrong. She covers her eyes with the heels of her hands and breathes like a person whose body has remembered how to cry only recently. Strangers pass the courtyard without stopping. The clock above the door clicks to a new minute. When she drops her hands, her mascara has made small parentheses beneath her eyes. I made a mistake, she says the oldest 3 words on earth and looks at the maple like it might answer. He told me you didn't see him, that you saw the job. I stand. I see everything I'm required to see, I say. It is the closest I have to an answer that isn't a story. I leave her there on the bench with a tissue I didn't hand her because pity would be a lie. Michael O'Rourke's studio sits above a bait shop that smells like salt and something iron. He's winding gaffer's tape around a cable when I knock. Doc, he says, turning the word into a greeting heavy on the O. He's taken photos for Harborview fundraisers since before the hospital could afford proper lights. I need clean audio in a dirty room, I say. He grins at the problem. How many bodies in the space? 200 give or take. Clinking glasses, jazz trio. A room with a stage. A podium, I say. A donor wall. Carpeting that eats sound. He nods as if I've just handed him a recipe. He shows me a case of small boundary mics that look like innocuous coasters and a recorder the size of a paperback. He moves like a man who's done lighting plots in his head while driving. You want the room, not just the man, he says. You want the air. I want what's said to be what's heard, I say. He sets 2 mics on the counter. I'll mark them as table numbers and make them look boring, he says. No one steals a coaster. We talk about battery life, signal paths, permission. I use the word transparency because it fits in every room without snagging. He shows me a simple way to bundle files so the names sort themselves date, location, source. He scribbles it for me on the back of a flyer so my hands remember the order. On my way out, he hands me a small envelope with a square of paper inside, a QR code printed on matte cardstock. Vault link, he says. Passwords in the email I sent you. Upload whatever you want kept and share the code with whoever needs to see it. They point, they land. No more forwarding chains. At Beacon House, where the gala committee meets, the event coordinator, hair in a smooth bun clipboard for a shield, walks me through the banquet hall. Gold chairs, white linens, a stage skirted in navy like a ship in port. She points to the donor wall where plaques glow softly behind glass. Tom's requested a short segment to talk about the new ER suite, she says. Is that all right with you? She asks it because someone taught her to ask both halves of a couple and because I am wearing a badge. I say yes because yes gets me into rooms and no does not. Back at Harborview, the sun lowers into the water like a coin. Marisol catches my sleeve by the med room and presses a padded mailer into my hand. You left this on the counter, she lies, because she knows how to deliver a thing without making it heavy. Inside is a stack of craft envelopes and a sheet of labels printed in a typeface that looks like it wants to be believed. Transparency packet sits at the top of each. In the staff lounge, I sit alone and slide papers into sleeves. Copies of what Kara stamped at Riley's. One page that explains in simple words what a person is looking at. A list of dates with the times rounded to the minute, not the second, because precision only impresses when it doesn't show off. I seal each flap and run my thumb along the glue like I'm smoothing a vein. When my hands are empty, I wash them again out of habit. The mirror above the sink gives me a face that belongs to someone who has had a long day and kept standing in it. In my locker, the beacon ball invitation leans against a spare pair of flats. The lighthouse on the front is the same lighthouse that blinks at Crescent Pier. I slip the invitation back into its envelope and close the metal door without looking at my reflection again. The Beacon House ballroom smells faintly of lemon oil and hot lights. Staff in black move chairs with the hush of a well-practiced crew. White linens glide onto round tables. A jazz trio warms scales until the notes find their shine. On the back wall, the donor plaques glow under museum glass names, pressed into brass like they've always belonged there. Michael is already crouched by table 3, setting what looks exactly like a coaster into the shadow of a floral arrangement. He tests a cable with his cheek the way some men check a grill, then gives me a quick thumbs up. 2 tables over another coaster disappears under a votive. The recorder in his blazer pocket blinks a sleepy green. Ava arrives in a navy sheath that carries more pockets than you'd guess. She takes in the room the way a pilot reads weather. "House sound feeds in from the stage left," she says softly. AV desk is at the back with a direct line to the podium. If we need it, we nod once to Michael, twice means no. She looks at my hands at the steadiness that has taken all day to pin down. We're within our rights. Marisol floats by carrying place cards, eyes bright, an extra wristband tucked in her palm. She slips it to me without fuss. "Volunteer access," she says, "if anyone asks why you're near the tech table." She tips her chin toward the corner where a stack of craft envelopes sits beneath a cloth. The labels are simple transparency packet. The QR codes on their backs look like polite mysteries. The doors open at 6. Donors arrive in a tide of silk and suits, the kind of small talk that folds around a room and makes it look filled. Candlelight finds cheekbones. The band finds the right tempo. Tom appears at the entrance with his boardroom smile and a tux of us that fits as if the tailor knew more than measurements. He shakes hands like a candidate and makes eye contact in neat, courteous squares. When he reaches me, he tilts his head and lowers his voice. "Thank you for coming," he says as if I might forget whose name sits on the invitation beside mine. I nod. You've been busy." "Always," he says, and his palm skims the air near my elbow but does not land. We are seated at the front as donors who have given and doctors who shoulder night shifts are supposed to be seated visible enough to justify the speeches. Noah sits 2 tables away, jacket on tie, straight posture formal in a way that reads as armor. He catches my eye for a second and then lets the connection go like a boat easing its line. Lila is not at his side. The MC, a man with a shaved head and a pleasant practice cadence, steps up to the microphone. Thanks, the sponsors nods toward the nurses in the back and gestures to the door where the ER crew just slipped in on a late dinner break. Applause folds through the room. I feel it in my chest more than my ears. And now the MC says a few words from a friend of Harborview, whose vision has helped us imagine a new emergency suite for Harbor's Edge. Please welcome Tom Whitman. Tom takes the stage with the confidence of a man who has never had to ask if a microphone is on. He thanks the board, the staff, the community. He says transparency like it's a sacrament, says family with the elegant weight of habit. The jazz trio settles into silence behind him, hands hovering, waiting for the pitch to return. At the AV table, Michael glances over his shoulder. I give a single nod. The first voice that comes through the speakers isn't Tom's. It is a woman's, recorded on a night when whispers pretended to be privacy. The volume is not loud, it is simply present, braided into the house system so cleanly that for 2 seconds no one moves. He said when he moves, he's choosing me. The words ring the way truth does when it forgot to dress up. A chime sounds from the back, a dinner bell. Note the kind of sound that signals nothing more serious than dessert. Staff in black move in a practiced loop, sliding a craft envelope to the corner of each VIP table, discreet as refilling water. A few people turn them over, puzzled, and aim their phones at the code because phones do what they're trained to do. On screens across the room, a simple page opens, dates, times, a notarized agreement stamped with a raised seal. No commentary, just paper. Tom laughs into the microphone in easy, "Let's not make a thing of this" sound. "Seems we're auditioning a new AV team," he says, but the laugh doesn't land. The second voice is his from a captured call. He should never have made his own cadence, unmistakable even in a snippet. "We'll keep it quiet. Lunch is safer. Same room. The words don't shout. They land gently and then refuse to move. Ava steps to the side aisle, small and composed, and catches the eye of the board chair. A woman who has weathered 6 capital campaigns and 3 recessions. The chair's mouth tightens a shade. She sets her linen napkin on the table in an exact square and rises. "We'll take a brief pause," she says to the room, not asking, and makes an unobtrusive motion toward the band. The bass player lowers his hand. The room inhales, then holds. Michael stops the audio. In the small pocket of quiet that follows, glass stutters against china, and someone whispers Tom's name like a question that mislaid its mark. Tom grips the sides of the podium. The tendons at his wrists stand up like fence wire. Ava reaches the edge of the stage with 2 documents in a clear sleeve. "Mr. Whitman," she says, her voice professional and ordinary, the tone you use when you found a typo in a handout. "This is a notice to comply with the agreement you signed on Friday evening. Service is effected here." She doesn't climb the stairs. She holds the sleeve at chest height and waits until he comes to take it. He doesn't move. The event coordinator, hair in a smooth bun, steps forward because her job is to keep rooms from boiling over. She takes the sleeve, turns to Tom with her clipboard still in her other hand, and offers the papers the way you offer a pen to a person about to sign a guest book. He accepts them because not accepting would create a bigger breach than he knows how to manage in public. 2 witnesses, Ava says, as if this were any other signature. The coordinator nods. Michael steps to her side. They sign with the little hotel pens that make scratchy, unimpressive lines. The clipboard returns to its owner. The sleeve goes back to Ava's pocket. At table 7, where the hospitalists sit, forks have stopped in midair. At table 1, a donor with a checkbook the size of a skiff lifts his glasses to the top of his head and peers at the page on his phone like it might rearrange itself if he wishes hard enough. At table 5, Noah stands. He doesn't clear his throat. He doesn't lift his hands. "The materials are accurate," he says, voice low but carrying. "That's all." He sits. Tom tries again, softer now, to pull the night back into orbit. "I'm sure there's a misunderstanding," he says, mouth shaping the syllables carefully as if precision could make them true. He looks at me, then past the first row of faces over the flowers and plates as if I might offer him a rope. I offer him nothing. Marisol has moved to my shoulder, not touching, simply aligned. The MC confers with the board chair in a corner of the stage. The trio's pianist stretches his fingers once and then lays them still on his lap. I watch 100 small reactions travel the room like wind on tall grass. Head tilts, the lean-in of friends, the collective recalibration. Ava hands me a single sealed envelope. The flap carries the quiet authority of glue. I don't open it. It isn't a surprise. On the donor wall, the brass catches the light and throws it back the way metal knows how to do without effort. Tom clears his throat and steps away from the microphone. The coordinator moves toward the podium with the instinct of a person who has saved more events than she can count. "We'll resume with dessert," she announces smoothly, and at her word, the room exhales into a new shape. The band returns to life on a softer setting. Names or murmured chairs shift. Staff roll out trays where slices of cake gleam with mirror glaze and tiny moons. I push my chair back and stand. No one reaches to stop me. The corridor outside the ballroom is long and lined with those old black and white photos of Harbor's Edge when the streets were still dirt and everyone wore hats to the shore. At the end of the hall, glass doors open to the terrace. The night air is cold and clean and honest. Beyond the lawn, past the low stone wall, the harbor moves under the dark like something breathing in sleep. Across the water, the lighthouse on Black Gull throws its patient blink. On, off, on, off. A rhythm you can trust without asking it to promise anything. I set my hands on the cool railing and let them rest there until they remember they belong to me. Inside, silverware lifts and settles. Out here, the wind threads my hair loose and then leaves it be. Morning brings a square of light on Ava's conference table, the kind that makes paper look truer than it already is. The notary stamps once, twice. Ink dries. Ava slides a copy across to me with the small nod of a person who respects process. "Keep this one in your glove compartment," she says. I tuck it into a manila envelope and feel the ordinary weight. At the house, the hydrangeas lean toward the porch like they're checking in. A locksmith's van idles at the curb. The tech works fast, polite hands sure. New deadbolt, new keys. The old ones clink into a zip bag that goes into a drawer I don't open again. Inside, I air the rooms. Windows up, shades lifted. The bourbon and eucalyptus edge thins, then fades into something like wood soap in late sun. I wash the lipstick from the mug and set it on the top shelf where we keep the things we don't reach for. Tom collects what's his without ceremony suits, chews the putter he loved enough to talk to. He doesn't step past the threshold. He looks at the floors like he's memorizing lines in a stage he can't return to, then says, "I'll send for the rest," and leaves. His car quiets at the stop sign like a sentence that knows it's over. Noah's apartment smells like onions and chalk dust. He opens the door in socks, hair damp, a dish towel over his shoulder. Boxes crouch in corners labeled in the careful block letters of a teacher, books, kitchen photos. He takes the foil pan from my hands and peeks under the lid. "You made the real one," he says, surprised and grateful. "Baked too long at the edges," I tell him. "That's the part I like." He sets it on the counter and leans against the sink. For a minute, we watch a line of kids walk past the window, backpacks, swinging phones out, the afternoon blooming around them. He reaches into a drawer, pulls out a key on a blue tag, and presses it into my palm. Just in case. I give him a key to the house in return. Our hands close and open a quiet swap of metal and trust. We eat standing up with forks that don't match, laughing once at a joke that doesn't need to be good to be ours. At Harborview, Marisol glides past the nurse's station with a clipboard and a lemon drop. She drops the candy into my palm, a small yellow planet. "For your pocket," she says, "for later." The night runs steady and ankle from a basement stair, a teenager who fainted in chorus, a fisherman whose wedding ring got smart with a fillet knife. I stitch, splint, listen. Between cases, I catch my face in the dark glass of the bedroom window and don't flinch at the woman looking back. Michael sends a link and a one-line email. Files archived. Keep the code. I print the QR on heavy paper and file it with the stamped pages, then shut the drawer with the soft assurance of finished things. On a Saturday, when the wind comes from the south, I carry the penny jar to the Coinstar at the grocery store and pour. Copper becomes numbers. Numbers become a receipt. The receipt turns into a new doormat and a box of long screws for the strike plate just because it feels good to make a door stronger. Back home, I shake the empty jar, once glass ringing lid rattling, then set it on the sill where it can learn what sunlight is for. Lila passes me in the library 2 weeks later. Eyes lowered, a stack of returns hugged to her chest. She doesn't stop, and I don't either. The clock over the entrance keeps time for both of us without comment. Ava emails again, court acknowledgments, filed copies attached. Her subject line is a date, nothing more. I print the first page and slide it behind the post-nuptial in the folder, a tree's worth of proof reduced to a quiet inch. One evening, the light at Black Gull flashes through a band of clear air between two clouds, and I decide to drive. The highway tilts south, miles ticking under the tires like stitches that hold. Pine and salt, marsh and sky, past New Haven, past New London, past the bridges that lace the coast into a net. By the time I cross into North Carolina, the moon is up low and deliberate. Chapel Hill's trauma wing hums with the same language as ours, alarm shoes on tile, a laugh that means someone's relieved. I sign a visitor badge with a borrowed pen and shake hands in a conference room that smells like coffee and whiteboard markers. We talk staffing protocols, how to get a chest tube into a body that doesn't want to accept it and make that body grateful later. The work remembers me and I remember it back. On my way east the next day, I turn off where a sign promises a lighthouse without saying its name. The road narrows to a ribbon between water and water. Herons stand in the shallows like monks. A crab skitters backward into dark. At the lot, I park between two trucks with coolers in their beds and follow a boardwalk out to the sound. The tower rises from scrub like a fact. Black bands, white bands, the order as fixed as tides. I don't count the steps. I don't climb. I stand at the railing and take the wind full in the face. The beam reaches, sweeps, returns. On, off, on, off. Not a promise, not a lesson, just a steady hand on a wheel you can't see. I let my hands rest on the rail until the chill goes out of them. Then I turn toward the path, the car, the road that leads wherever roads lead, and walk. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.